What's up, bitches?
Let's talk about crime.
What's up, bitches?
Hello.
Okay, I'm going to give you a slight little update and then we'll jump into what we're supposed to be talking about. I've been really digging into those Epstein files.
So I've heard.
Like a lot. And I'm going to say this much.
I tried to look them up and it got complicated, so I stopped.
It's not complicated. What are you talking about? You just think of what you're wanting to look for, keywords, and put it in there.
Yeah, but I didn't want to look for keywords. I just wanted to start from page 1 and just keep going.
There's 3 million documents. That
That's
would
fine.
take you forever. So
I just want the pictures.
So instead, what I did is I started thinking of like people, like celebrities or people who have been accused of whatever. And I type in the names. And I want to make something very clear right now. So far, what I have found, I've seen a lot of people who are saying things like, so-and-so, this person is in the files. This person's in the files. For example, I've seen a lot of people saying that, Donald Trump is in the Epstein files 38,000 times or something like that.
More than the Bible.
Yeah.
Jesus in the Bible.
I'm going to tell you this much.
Or some shit like that.
I'm going to tell you this much because y'all know I research. He probably is in there that much. I did type his name and I'm not going to lie. And he is in like over 3,000 documents. But his name could be in each document like 17 times. However, I need to make something very clear. Just because somebody's name is in the documents does not mean they are associated with Epstein. That's what I'm finding out. So, for instance, I typed in Justin Bieber. Not because I think Justin Bieber is any sort of related to Epstein in any way, but I thought maybe there would be something about Justin Bieber. I was thinking maybe P. Diddy, that kind of stuff. And when you type it in, Justin Bieber is on like 10 or 15 pages. However, those 10 and 15 pages are literally things that are like, hey, so-and-so, you're invited to the Grammys. These are our key performers. And then it would highlight Justin Bieber's name in that. Or sometimes it's a document where somebody has emailed somebody else. So it's not, Epstein's not even involved in the email. And they're talking about like, oh, I want to get Justin Bieber tickets for my kid or whatever. Like it's not a direct, they're not directly talking to Epstein himself, right? So I need people to understand that just because a celebrity's name is in there doesn't mean they actually have a connection to Jeffrey Epstein. It just means that somebody spoke about them, maybe put their name in an email or shared a link, because a lot of the things I've seen are links. And it's a lot of like, hey, check out this video. And then you look at the video and it'll be like Justin Bieber's concert, right? Or whatever. I will say, though, I have most definitely seen a lot of things that I'm not understanding why we haven't seen arrests. That I will say. I don't want to put anything out there right now because I have been asked by my son to not compile enough stuff to be able to do a show quite yet. He wants me to hold off on and wait. I kind of agree with him. All this information is so fresh and new. And at the end of the day, I'll finish it with this. I'm going to look through the Epstein files. I'm going to look for people. I'm going to look for things like the Pizzagate, and I'm going to find the information. I will compile enough information that we'll be able to have an episode about it on Crime Bitches.
It's probably going to be like a fucking 4-part episode.
But I will wait to do it because the people that I'm finding in these documents, if it runs as deep as I think it is, anybody who talks about it, they're going to find you and they're going to take you out. So I don't want to be the person they come after and try to fucking ruin my life, destroy my life, or kill me because I exposed their secrets. So I'm going to wait till everybody else does that and then I'll do it later so that their secret's already out there and then I'm not like exposing anything new, right? I see a lot of TikTokers right now talking about it, and some of the stuff they're talking about, I am blown away that they're putting their face out there and connecting the dots, because it's a lot of government officials and a lot of very high, powerful people. And I'm not talking about just people from the United States. This is involving people from other countries and very high ranking people from other countries. And so I'm going to just say, I'm not going to put out people's names. I'm not going to do anything for a hot minute. I'm going to research on my own because I do enjoy it. I spent a lot of time this last week actually doing it. I did have to take breaks because it's a lot of information, but also some of the information, your stomach really hurts after you read it because you can't believe that people actually email about this kind of shit. A lot of it's coded, but it's just too many. My big takeaways right now that I've come away with, that again, I will do an episode on it, but it's probably going to be at least 6 months before I even try to do it, out of respect for my son. My son specifically asked me to hold off and wait and not to be one of the first people that talks about it because he's worried. And I can completely see why after digging into the files so far. And that's just like the tip of the iceberg. So here's my takeaway right now. My takeaway is this. There are far too many celebrities, Congress people, musicians, and high power people that were associates of Jeffrey Epstein after 2008, meaning they knew he was a convicted sex offender and had no problem associating themselves with him, which is disgusting. And number two, I've never in my life seen so many fucking adults talk about having pizza parties. Full-fledged billionaires, millionaires talking about pizza parties as if they're fucking 5. We all know that the pizza party thing is not fucking real. We all know it's codes and references for other things. But if you ever had questions about the Pizzagate shit, go look up pizza. Just go go search in the Epstein files pizza, and you will see some really disturbing emails that you're like, they cannot possibly be talking about actual pizza. And you'll also walk away from it going, I didn't think adults, why weren't they all fat if they were just eating pizza all the time? That's my first question. And my second question is, as a fucking adult, if I'm going to have some pizza with my friends, I am not calling it a pizza party. And I also am not signing my emails to all my friends XOXO and my name. But there was a very certain group that does do that. That's all I'm going to say. And there we go. So if you are interested in the Epstein stuff, just go look it up. All their stuff is on. It's on the, not all of it. I mean, obviously, but the 3 million files that they have released. Yes, they are heavily redacted. But you can, I'm annoyed by the redactions because some of the redactions, I'm not quite understanding why they're redacted because it's clearly emails between two people and they were only supposed to redact the victims. But there's many emails I've seen where it's emails back and forth about somebody like asking to come stay on Epstein's Island, but they won't show you who's asking. And it's like, well, that's not one of the victims because the victims were all underage girls and they wouldn't be emailing like in these. You can tell by the way the email is. I've definitely seen pizza party comments with the names of the recipients or the names of the senders being redacted, which again, they're not victims. They're the people who are plotting and planning. So I do have a problem with it. I have a problem with how this has been handled. I think that there's a lot of government corruption, that I think people need to just understand that everything we all thought about the world is fake. So that's basically your takeaway from it is we all live in a fake ass world because that's the only thing you can possibly come up with. Anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about though. But I wanted to give you all an update because I know last week I had said something about it and I started digging into it, and it is much deeper and much darker than probably anybody actually thought. It's darker than I thought. It affects way more people, way too many celebrities, way too many high, powerful people. And I firmly, with my gut, believe that we will never see any of these people brought to justice because of who they are and where they stand within our world. So I guess we just sit there and deal with it because I don't know what else we're supposed to do. It's very depressing. So to add to your depression, okay, about our world, I'm gonna bring up a new case that again, Sierra is batting
4 for 4.
She's batting 1,000, baby. She's batting 1,000 right now, and I love it because I have to do 2 podcasts. I sometimes struggle finding the ones for us to do. No, ma'am. Sierra's just like, how about this one? How about this one?
Dude, like I told you, though, I don't even read them. I think
it's great.
I see it's something that's not a serial killer. It looks like there's some information. Maybe there's a lot. Maybe there's a little. So I just send it to you. If you think it's interesting, cool. If
and
not,
I think it's great because there have been some where I've looked.
Because I still don't even know like what they are until we talk about them.
Well, and I have looked, and sometimes it's like, oh, there's just not enough information that I can't do the episodes. And this was one that I actually thought, oh shit, there might not be a lot of, and it's not super long. Okay. It's not, but it needed to be talked about. I wanted to talk about it because it's not a good story. It doesn't have a good ending, but we have a hopefulness to it. Okay. That this is one that I was like, I'll give a little hope to the listeners today because right now we need a little hope in our world because motherfuck. So what we are talking about this week is we are talking about the boy in the box murder. Do you remember sending it to me?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. This is where I give you a trigger warning because the boy in the box is not a good story and it's about the death of a young boy, a 4-year-old boy. So I'm letting you know now that this episode is going to talk about the death of a 4-year-old boy and it's going to give a little bit of detail of what happened to him. And, you know, children need to be protected in our world. And right now with the world the way it is, it's hard to listen to stories about children being killed. So
well, just to reiterate, we never get offended if you ever skip an episode, whether you're a diehard listener or just tuning in now. We never get offended if you skip an episode because it just makes you uncomfortable. We totally get it. I mean, there's been some episodes where we've had to take a break while we're recording and be like, all right, hold on, let's take a breather, come back.
Yep. This is definitely one that's not a fun one to talk about, but it was very interesting. So I just wanted to give out a trigger warning that this is about the murder of a 4-year-old boy. So keep that in mind. And again, please feel free to skip it. I have zero problems with you not listening to it. I'm just here to share the information for those of you that want to listen to it. So let's get into it. So what we are talking about is February 25th, 1957 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The body of a young boy is found, and his body is found inside of a box. Hence, the boy in the box. So had we done this story before 2022, so had we decided to research and share this story with you before 2022, we would actually be referring to this as the boy in the box murders. And I would be referring to the little boy as the boy in the box throughout the whole entire episode. However, due to DNA technology, we have a name for him.
Oh, shit. So it was basically an unsolved?
Yes. It is unsolved, but it was unsolved and they didn't even know who he was.
God damn.
So this is actually the story of Joseph August Zarelli. So on December 8th of 2022, which is more than 65 years after his body was found, his identity was discovered.
That's insane.
So Philadelphia police had used DNA and genealogical databases to find a distant cousin and then backtrack from there till they found a birth certificate with the parents' names and everything. So they have been able to positively identify Joseph August Zarelli as the boy in the box. February 25th, 1957, the body of Joseph is found. He is wrapped in plaid blankets, and he is found in the woods off of Susquehanna Road, which is in the Fox Chase neighborhood of Philadelphia. Now, I'm going to pause here really quick and say, notice there's no background. I have no background because we didn't know who he was until 2022. Well, and also
he's a 4-year-old child.
He was
a background.
Yeah, but we don't even.
Anyways.
Correct. And again, 2022 is when they found out his identity. So they're trying to still figure out everything else. So we're literally just jumping. That's why I said it's not going to be a super long case because we're jumping right into the actual crime. His body is actually first discovered by a man who was in the woods checking his rabbit traps. So he was walking around the woods looking at his rabbit traps. And while he's in there, he sees this box and he sees inside this box this like boy or like a kid. And, you know, as one would, when you're checking your rabbit traps and you find this, you of course would be like, well, I don't want the fucking cops to come out here and snag and like and take and confiscate my rabbit traps. So I'm just not going to say nothing.
What the fuck?
So as one should, you know, just protect your rabbit traps. Fuck the boy in the box. And so he says nothing. A couple of days later, a college student is driving down the road and he sees this rabbit run across the road in front of him. Now I'm not 100% sure how this college student knew, but the college student knew that there were rabbit traps in this area. So he pulls over, and I don't know if he was going to try to catch the rabbit, like maybe the guy who originally found the box was his uncle or his dad or something, or if he was going to save the rabbit by trying to like let it go before it could be killed. I don't know what his intentions were, but he pulled over to go after this rabbit. And this rabbit had ran across the road and under some bush. So he walks over to where the brush and the bushes are. And as he walks through, he sees this box. Now, mind you, this area already has a lot of garbage because it is a place that was known in the area as a dumping ground for just dumping your shit, right? So he kind of walks over and he realizes there's a box, and he sees inside the box what looks like hair and like a blanket. And he's like, somebody, like, in his brain, all he thought is like, oh, okay, it's a box with a doll in it. Like, cool. And he goes about his day. He doesn't think anything of it. He doesn't think that it's a child. He just kind of, whatever, looks for the rabbit and leaves.
That one?
You're right. You
Fair.
can understand that one.
The first guy? The fuck you mean, bro?
And of course, he doesn't call the police because...
Well, nobody's going to report a fucking doll in a box,
right, it looks
especially
like
if it's a normal dumping ground.
Right, in an area where there might be a dumping ground.
That's a fair, legitimate excuse.
Now, after he gets home, like the next day, he is like watching the news or maybe listening to the radio, and he hears that there was a disappearance of a little girl named Mary Jane Barker, who disappeared on February 25th, which was a couple of days before that. And when he hears that, he's like, well, hold on now. Maybe that wasn't a doll in the box. And so that is what triggers him to call the police.
Okay, at least he fucking called the cops.
Correct. So he basically calls the police and he's like, so I don't know, I'm not sure, but yesterday I was, driving down the road, saw this rabbit, pulled over, saw this box on the side of the road. I thought it was a doll. But then I heard that you guys are looking for a little girl named Mary Jane Barker. And I thought I might want to call you guys because I think it's a doll, but just in case. And so this little girl was also 4 years old when she went missing, which, by the way, there's like stories about her. So there is a chance we'll get into Mary Jane Barker too. I don't know if there's I don't know anything else about her, but when I was looking it up, there were links to click to find out about her disappearance. So maybe that'll be a story in the future. So, of course, the police show up and he brings the police over to where he found this box, and the police see the box and they look inside and they find not Mary Jane Barker, but they do find that there is a body of a young boy that is wrapped up in a plaid blanket inside the box. And this body is inside of a cardboard box. So it's like a big cardboard box and he's inside of it. Now, they do notice that this box is one that would have actually been used to hold or store, not store, but like when you go to a store and buy a bassinet, like what a brand new baby would sleep in. So it was a bassinet box. So they immediately note that. They also note that this particular bassinet is only sold at JCPenney's. So they were like, okay, well, we know that whoever put this little boy in this box had somehow gotten a bassinet from JCPenney's, or at least the box, right? They also notice that the boy, his hair had been cut, but it's been cropped in a really weird way. And they were pretty sure that his hair had been chopped off after he died. And the reason was because there were clumps of hair on his body. So they're kind of like piecing things together. He was also, I forgot to tell you this, he was also naked, completely naked. But he's got this plaid blanket on him. They also find that there were signs of severe malnourishment. So he was extremely skinny. And at the time, they did not know how old he was. They guessed his age range to be 4 to 6 years old, but he was extremely malnourished. So he was very skinny, ribs showing, that kind of stuff. So they were like, okay, he could be 4. He could be probably as old as 6. They also found surgical scars on his ankle and his groin area, but they looked like legit surgical scars, like he had surgery at some point. They also found an L-shaped scar under his chin. He also had 4 scars on his forehead, and his right hand and his feet were pruny, like he had been in water for like a while. They also recognized that he looked like he had been beaten. So they actually do believe that he was beaten to death. That's what they think killed him, was the beating. So the police end up obviously starting an investigation into this child who at the time they had no idea who he was. So they took his fingerprints from his body, and they were actually very optimistic that this would end rather quickly because you have fingerprints, you're going to put his face out there. Parents, it's a child. Somebody's going to be missing their 4-year-old child, right? Most people are going to immediately come forward if they see their child missing. So they get the fingerprints. Nobody comes forward. They put his picture out there. They explain where they found him. Nobody comes forward. Nobody comes forward claiming that there's a missing child. Nothing. Nobody. They look through their documentations. Nobody's reported a missing boy in this area. Now, there is a lot of media attention given to this because, hello, it's a little boy who was found in a box naked, dead. The Philadelphia Inquirer printed 400,000 flyers. Now, these flyers had pictures of his face, and they're kind of creepy. As a matter of fact, if you're looking at this on anything other than Apple Podcasts, I say this all the time, what you're looking at is the flyers that they put out there. And it's got the 4 pictures of this little boy. And they are pictures of him, obviously, after his death. And you can kind of see where he's got some scars and stuff. That's what they put out there, though. If that was your child, though, you would probably at least go, that shit looks like my son and my son's missing, right? Like you would think it would trigger something. Oh, and they distributed these flyers all throughout the area that the boy's body was found. They also gave pictures of him to every person who bought gas, like at gas stations, when you would go in to pay for your gas. Because again, this is the 50s. They didn't do fucking debit cards. So when they gave you your gas bill, with it was a picture of this little boy asking if anybody knows who he is. That's how much they were trying to find this kid's family. Now the crime scene is investigated. They went back to that crime scene so many different times. They actually ended up having a total of 270 people. Most of them were from the police academy and they were police academy recruits. And that was one of the places they'd go to help train them, but also for another fresh set of eyes to see if they could find things. What they did find at the crime scene was a blue corduroy cap. Now I saw 2 reports on this. One of them said it was a man's, like a man's size, but another report I saw said child's. So regardless, I don't know the size, but they found a blue corduroy cap, a child's scarf. They found a man's white handkerchief with the letter G on the corner. And they had all these things, but none of the clues led to anything. They did not get anybody to come forward. They nothing. So then the police are like, okay, we got to figure something else out. So now the police create a post-mortem photograph of him. And it's creepy. I chose not. Y'all are welcome. I chose not to use this picture because it is out there. It's fucking creepy. So what they did was they took this boy, fully dressed him, and seated him in like a seated position in like a little chair and took pictures of him as if like what he would have looked like when he was alive. And that is a creepy picture because he wasn't alive, first of all. So that's hard anyways. Okay. So Sierra just looked at it. Tell me that's not a little creepy. That's even the one.
Those ones.
Okay. That's the flyers. That's what our listeners are going to be looking at when they're watching this podcast.
Or that one.
Yeah, that's the one. That picture is what they will be looking at on the podcasting. Yeah, so they decided to do that post-mortem picture because they're like, okay, well, maybe people don't recognize him, just his head, so let's put his whole body out there, make it look like what he would look like if he was alive. But it's a little creepy, I'm not going to lie. So they put that out there. And now they're hoping that by doing this, that people would go, oh, wait a minute, now that looks like my kid. Or whatever. I don't know really. I mean, I think that at this point they were just trying to find answers because
they're desperate enough. Yeah,
and this is a little boy. So again, nothing. Nobody has ever come forward. As a matter of fact, to this day, nobody has ever come forward claiming to be the parent. Nobody has ever come forward saying that they were missing a son. No neighbors, no parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, nothing. So there are some theories that have come out of this. I'm only going to touch on 2 of them, though, because to be honest with you, there was 4 that I found altogether, but 2 of the 4 are like current day theories. And I'm not going to lie. They're kind of like, I don't fucking believe what you have to say, you know? So one of the theories is what they call the foster home theory. Now, what this was that in 1960, a man named Remington Bristow, he was actually involved in the investigations of this little boy, and he actually continued to investigate relentlessly on this case until 1993 because he was not willing to give up on this boy. So in 1960, he contacts a psychic because, by that time, you're talking, this is 3 years later, and they have not had a single person come forward and say anything. So he reaches out to a psychic in New Jersey, and he's like, can you assist me? This is what I'm looking for. there's a boy. He was found in a box. Give the details, right? So this psychic says to him like, yeah, okay, I think you need to look for a house that matches what would be like a foster home. That's what I'm feeling is going on here. So he actually asks the psychic, like, would you be willing to come out here? And, the psychic was like, yeah, sure. So the psychic shows up and he brings the psychic to the location where the body was found. As soon as the psychic gets there, the psychic decides that, oh, I'm kind of getting some vibes here. Let me bring you somewhere. And immediately I don't know if it's a she. Immediately the psychic brings Remington to a foster home that is about 1.5 miles from where the site of the body was found. It is discovered when they go to this home that there is an estate sale going on. And at this estate sale, they see a bassinet that is very similar to the one that is sold at JCPenney's that would have been in that box. They also find that there are blankets hanging up on a clothesline outside that also are strikingly similar to the one that is wrapped around the boy's body when they found him. And so the theory was that the little boy was the son of the stepdaughter of the man who owned and ran this foster home, right? And she had a baby, and somebody killed this little boy and then got rid of him because she was an unwed mother and they didn't want her to have to be exposed as an unwed mother. That's what the theory behind it is. I personally think that's not a good theory, in my honest opinion. Now, police do talk to them, and they also go to the state and they say, we need a list of all of the children who are living at this foster home. So the state gives them a list and they go to the foster home and all of the kids are accounted for. And so they're like, okay, well, obviously he did not come from this place because there are no missing children here. So they end up not being able to really find any links. Okay. And they're like, okay, well, I mean, that's kind of a dead end, right? Boom. Now, another theory is something that actually was brought forward in 2002. However, the reason why I'm talking about this one is because of what is being said. So in February of 2002, this woman who went by the name of Martha, she actually accused her mother of killing the child. So in 2002, she comes forward and says that her mother killed this little boy. So police look into her story thinking this is a very possible, it's possible. It is very possible. However, some of the things that she says to them trouble them and they kind of like, they're not like, I don't really know if what she's talking about is true. She also has a history of mental illness, which also always immediately makes you go, okay, but
red
did
flag
this really
when
happen?
It comes to those things, yep.
So her claim was that her mother and father had purchased a boy named Jonathan from his birth parents in 1954. She said that he was beaten to death and left in a box outside of town. That's what she tells them. That's what she's talking about. Now, police were never able to verify her story. And fast forward to 2022, his name was not Jonathan. His name is Joseph. However,
they're close enough.
They are very close. They also found people who had been around that family during that time, like her family during the times, because like they took this seriously. They started doing research, went back to where like her family members would be or neighbors or whatever and interviewed all of them. And every single one of them said, there was never a boy that lived with this family. And a lot of the neighbors were like, we never saw a boy ever. It was literally just her. It was just Martha. There was never any boys. There was nothing that would make us think that there was any boy around. And my thing is, he died when he was 4. So you would think for 4 years, unless he was locked up somewhere, which is very viable. I'm not saying that he wasn't. So they end up actually burying his body in Potter's Field. Now, I don't know what Potter's Field is, but when I was doing the research, I found that there's a lot of unnamed people in Potter's Field. What?
We all know where Potter's Field comes from. It's a Wonderful Life.
Mr.
Throwing that out
Mr.
there.
Potter. I'm thinking it's a place that they bury a lot of people who maybe are unnamed. Okay. This boy went unidentified for decades. And I mean fucking decades. They end up exhuming his body. And when they exhume his body, they actually take one of his teeth and that's where they get the DNA from. Which makes sense because how else would you get, you know what I mean? Like back in 57, they weren't like, they didn't know how to pull DNA like that, right? By that time, he's probably completely bones, but your teeth don't go away, right? I mean, I don't know. Do the teeth? I don't know if teeth go away, but your bones don't go away. So, I mean, I'm assuming your teeth don't either. But they were able to extract a tooth. They take one of his teeth, they bring it out. And again, this is now you're talking about the year, in the 2000s, where we're starting to do DNA stuff. But even in the early 2000s, we weren't doing the genealogy stuff.
Right.
But you could at least pull his DNA. So they end up pulling his DNA. And then after they do that, they actually bury him again. But they bury him at a place that's called Ivy Hill Cemetery in Cedarbrook, in the Cedarbrook section in Philadelphia. Now, the coffin, the headstone, and the funeral services that were given to this little boy when he was buried the second time were actually donated by the son of the man who originally buried the boy in 1957.
Aww.
Yeah. Now, the headstone at the time said, America's unknown child. This one hurts my heart. I'm not going to lie. When I was researching it, it made my heart really sad. I'm not going to lie. Now, in December of 2022, Philadelphia police officers continued to emphasize after they announced the identity. So after they announced it, like, we know this is Joseph and we know that this is him because his DNA was matched through genealogy. And they said, this is now and always will be an active homicide investigation. So they're not cold casing it. They're not like, oh, well, we found his identity, we're done. They are deeming it an active homicide investigation, which means they're currently
right. So first people I'd go to, what his birth certificate is, go to those fucking parents.
Well, we'll get to that. Now, it was reported that both of the boy's biological parents were dead.
Of course.
Hence the reason why he can't be talked to. However, he does have half siblings that are living, but they don't know, they might not have any information. But here is what they shared that they do know. So they do believe that Joseph had lived in the area of 61st and Market Streets in Philadelphia. They also...
that's pretty pinpointed down.
Well, and it's... yeah, actually, good point. I don't know how they came... I mean, I do know how they came up with
that could be a very large area for all I know.
That's true. But I'm also thinking it might be because they're basing it off the mom. That's my guess.
Or maybe there's something within his body that showed, like,
maybe
culturally areas.
So the police investigator said, and I quote, I don't know what the neighbors knew or didn't know. He said the child did live past the age of 4 years old, so there would have been somebody out there that would have seen this child. Perhaps another family member that hasn't stepped forward, possibly a neighbor that remembers seeing the child and remembers whatever was occurring at that particular household. So they have an idea of where he grew up, right? However, in January of 2023, so that's what they were saying in 2022. So now we fast forward to January of 2023, the Philadelphia Inquirer had reported that Joseph's biological parents were Augustus John Zarelli, also known as Gus, and Mary Elizabeth Plunkett, also known as Betsy. I never get it. They were not married. And as a matter of fact, nobody even ever knew they were in a relationship of any kind. So my thought process is this might have been a one-night stand. Okay. It could have been a one-night stand. It could have been a secret affair. However, neither one of them were married at that time. So I don't know why it would be a secret affair.
Yeah, but if you were in a relationship.
Could be.
It's not.
It could be. Now, both of them did go on and get married, though. So they both did go on and get married and had kids. And they were able to, so we know that about them. Now, Mary, according to Mary's cousin, because now that, they have now the family tree, right? So now they're interviewing. So Mary's cousin had actually said, well, Mary did have a little girl and put that little girl up for adoption. Okay, so that's number one. Her cousin also speculated in 2023, she said that at the time that Joseph would have been born based off of his age and his birth certificate that they now have, she was not married. She was an unwed lady. And she said she might not have been able to take care of Joseph at the time. So there's a really high possibility that she put him up for adoption, which would mean she probably didn't know during the time when his body came missing. If she gave him up for adoption, she wouldn't have known that was the kid she gave up for adoption, right? Which makes more sense to me why nobody else would have come forward. Now, as of January 13th, 2023, there is a new headstone that is now in place of the other one. And it now actually has his full name, his birthday, his death, and a picture of him as a child, obviously, on this headstone. And they actually put it in on what would have been his 70th birthday.
Wow.
So that is the case of the boy in the box. But I'm going to tell you something. I personally think they need to relook at that fucking dad of the foster home. And here's why. Not only did he have a bassinet that matched the box that the body was found in, not only was his home 1.5 miles away from where the body was found, not only did he have blankets that were very strikingly similar to the blanket that wrapped the boy in the body, but in the 90s, one of the police officers who was still investigating this went back to talk to, said foster dad and stepdaughter, who they were fucking married now.
Sweet home Alabama.
So in my mind,
wow,
I'm sitting there like, well, now hold the damn, hold on a damn minute. He married his stepdaughter. Okay, that to me, I understand that Joseph is not their child. I get that 100%. But
there's something ain't right in that house.
Absolutely not. But also I sit there and I go, but listen to what her cousin said. She was an unwed mother. What if she didn't do a legal adoption? What if she was approached by somebody or found somebody who black market fucking sold the baby? And what if this baby happened to be, because that is the most viable to me when I sit there and I listen to their options. Like which
would also make sense why when they had the list that he wouldn't have been accounted for.
Right.
Or like he wouldn't have been on the list.
He wouldn't have been on their list. And the thing
if there was an actual adoption that went through, I'm sure there's
where's
records
the
out there somewhere. There's paper trails for sure.
Right. That's what I'm saying is they have no paper trail of an adoption. So that means the adoption was not done legally. Regardless of what happened, the adoption of that baby, because that baby was born, there is a birth certificate with a mother and a father's name on it. And it's a live birth certificate, which means he was alive and he lived till he was 4. They know
which
that.
Also means that the dad had to have been there for the time of birth too.
Which he probably was. Which
he's dead.
Right.
So
they're
you
both
can't do
dead.
anything. But
right.
Again, there'd be a trail of probably his name signing over his rights.
Right. Like
as
you
well.
would think the big missing chunk is this kid just like disappears and his parents, neither one of his
the
parents.
Hospital could have possibly had records of stuff like that too.
Right. And neither of his parents come forward when he comes missing. So that makes you realize that because they're not bad people. The two people that are the parents don't seem to be bad people. They went on and had families, right? So they're not bad people. They would have come forward if that was their child missing. One of them would have come, regardless of if their relationship was secret.
See, because one
of them would have come forward.
My first thought was it was parents that neglected their child.
That's what I thought
and
too.
beat the shit out of them and killed them.
That's
on
what
accident.
I thought too. But in my thing, I now realize I don't think that I think that he was given up, but I don't think he was given up for a legal adoption. There's no paper trail for a legal adoption. So then it makes me go, well, now this swings my thought towards that foster home because that foster home was close enough because whoever killed Joseph, they had to take him in a fucking big ass cardboard box and leave him there. You're not traveling very far to do that. You're not doing that. So if you have a house that's 1.5 miles away and this happens to be a home that is full of children, and then years later you go back and find out that the said dude that runs it happened to marry his stepdaughter, that's all fucking hinky weird.
One of the first things that they should have done is ask those kids if there was a kid missing.
I'm sure they did. But you figure...
and I'm sure those foster kids, if they know what's going on with that kid, I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
Unless nobody knows.
I'm going to do the 1-2 wink.
Like, again, he was malnourished, so there is always that possibility that he was never let out. Now,
who knows what that property of the house looks like. Maybe there was a separate shed or something that he was kept 100%. In.
But that is, in my opinion, that seems like the most logical theory.
Regardless,
in my mind.
Unfortunately, it sounds like...
I don't think they'll ever figure it out.
That, and it also sounds like death was his best option. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Well, and
it's either that or torture.
Well, and to me, I sit there and it's like, okay, even the police officers have even said like he in 2023 would have turned 70. So any adult that would have been around him, the chances of them still being alive are pretty pretty much nothing, right? Adult neighbors, anybody, they're all pretty much not around. So you're probably never going to get an actual answer to this, but at least he has a name, right? At least he has a name and he's identified, which I thought was really cool. That was the part of the story that I was like, oh, that gives you hope, because they were able to identify this kid after 65 years.
Too bad they couldn't have collected DNA off the box.
I know. Well, now here's the thing. I'm gonna
or the blanket or any of that.
I'm gonna give you all a fair warning.
Because if they would have kept the blanket nowadays, they probably would have been able to figure it out.
I'm sure they have the blanket. I'm sure it's evidence.
There's fibers and shit.
Here's the thing. So when I was doing the research, there is a picture that says, here's the box. Like, here's the box that Joseph was found in. So I clicked on it, right? Because I like to do my research. Don't click on it. Don't click on it. Because it is the box with him in it. It's like the actual, like the whole picture.
I saw that one.
And you can see his little ass body. And he's like completely naked, but like his body's covered by the blanket, but you can tell he's completely naked. He's so tiny. Oh my God. I started crying. I was like,
especially because you're a parent.
Yes. Because I'm looking at, like, first of all, I thought it was just going to show me the box. Like, I was like, oh, I want to see the box. And then I clicked. I was like, what the fuck? But I also can tell you straight up, I understand why that kid thought it was a doll.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
From that picture, it really, because you just see really his hair. And you don't really notice that it's like a full-fledged child in there. So don't click on the picture unless you want to. I mean, if you Google boy in the box murder, you'll find that picture and you can click on it and take a peek at it if you want. I did not make that the cover because I think that's rude to do to people. Not that his picture on the thing is any better, because it is very scary looking, but it's really what he looked like when they found him. So this story was really interesting. I was really happy that Sierra gave it to us. So thanks, Sierra, again, for making me look at this stuff, because actually this one was very interesting. I'm sad that there's not closure. However, I'm happy that we finally got to put a face to his name, even though it's been 50, or not 50, it's been 60, shit, by now it's like 68 years that it's been. The fact that we have the technology to do such really cool things gives me hope for things in the future, to be able to solve crimes in the future and be able to solve the cold case crimes, because that is something that there's a lot of them out there. This'll probably be one that's forever a cold case, but it is what it is. Anyways, so that's the story of the boy in the box. I feel like I should have a clapping sound that's like every time we finish. At the end of each episode. Every time we finish an episode. Anyway, so if you like the things that you hear, if you like what we're talking about, we focus on, again, true crime and spooky stuff. Continue to listen to us and like us and share us. And if you don't like what we're talking about, that's totally fine. If you know somebody who might want to listen to us, share us with them. And then we'll just like have a whole like crime bitches hoorah. Anyways, again, one more time, thank you so much for listening to us tell you the story about the boy in the box who didn't gain his identity until 65 years later, thanks to DNA. Until next week, catch you on the flip side, bitches.
Bye, bitches.